Welcome to The Cool Down, a Bailiwick Express podcast where we meet the people making the sports headlines. All right, welcome to this special episode of The Cool Down, where we're focusing on the U21 Muratti. In the green corner is me, Nick Mann from Bailiwick Express in Guernsey, and in the red corner is the Jersey Evening Post sports editor, Stephen Anderson. When we agreed to record this last week, it's fair to say I wasn't in the most optimistic mood. My colleague here was telling me how much of a beating we're in for, and it was around the same time Jersey's netballers were romping away to victory against us in the Isle of Man. But Guernsey came up with the goods. We lifted the Ambassador Bowl with a 2-1 win in the rain. Steve, what went wrong?
Nick, you were there, so I mean, it's hard to argue with what you're about to say on the fabric of the game. But I mean, looking at the highlights, I'm sort of inclined to agree with Paul Renton's comments, our coach. It did look like they had multiple chances. He did also say they need to be more clinical and bury them chances that they have. There was a couple sort of errors in the build-ups to the Guernsey goals that were avoidable. Naturally, there was a red card in there in the first half, which changed the dynamic of the game. I think Barry Beetson was really hard done by with the first yellow card. I think the second was a yellow card, but the ref sort of made it really difficult for himself after he'd given a yellow card for the first one, which looked a bit arbitrary, really.
I mean, I think Paul was right in terms of you've made the referee make a decision. Murattis are always going to be a bit fiery, aren't they? There were a couple of incidents during the game when the players were up and about, and we'll address this later about neutrality of referees and where they should come from and the skills, but it definitely changed the dynamic of the game. And it is fair. Jersey, I think, were the better side, but at the end of the day, you got to put your chances away.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that, isn't it?
No, absolutely, and I do agree with you there. I mean, naturally, it's difficult to go away and play in front of a partisan crowd. One thing through playing golf in the past that I've known going to Guernsey is they're incredibly passionate about their team. Both sides are, but it seems like when you're in Guernsey, they really do care about their team, and whether that is without sounding harsh, that little sort of chip on the shoulder of the fact that Guernsey is smaller and typically in the past hasn't been quite as successful on a sporting stage as Jersey. Maybe that's where that passion comes from. And I mean, feeling overly optimistic yourself. And maybe there was a case of that sort of underdog mentality.
I think that can work in your favour. And I think, I'm not going to say who said this to me, but there was somebody in the lead up to the game we were talking about Guernsey's record in the Murattis, Guernsey's record at age group Murattis, obviously been really hard in the last 3-4 years. But what do we want? What's our target? Is our target to win every Muratti, or do we look at the size of our population compared to Jersey's and think, you know what, 1 in 3 is a good record? Is that where we're aiming?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think if you speak to any Guernsey player that's close to the team, any Guernsey coach, I don't think that's the right mentality to have. You can't enter a game thinking, okay, well, we won the last one, so if we lose this one, it's not too bad. It's a very dangerous mindset to go down. And I think you have to just take it from your front as it's a 90-minute game. Anything can happen over 90 minutes. Essentially, every Muratti is a cup final. And you've just got to take it as such.
I mean, I think some of this comes back as well. We saw Guernsey have that sort of golden period, in certainly in the senior Muratti when GFC was set up, stole a march in Jersey, and benefited from playing at that higher level. And and obviously that dynamic's changed recently as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I do think Jersey in general is going through a sort of golden period. I don't think it's ever been stronger. If you look at the players that we're managing to now send off Ireland, obviously Luke Harris at Fulham, even Callum Osman now, who is really coming through and making his mark on the under-21s. We've recently had Sami Heniakamo, who's making inroads at Swansea under-18s. I think when you look at the strength and depth as a whole, I do think there's a great a great sort of era that Jersey are in. Looking at the under-21s, with at the risk of sounding bitter and making excuses, there was a fair few key players missing. I mean, the proposed captain, Sammy Sutcliffe, who has turned out regularly for the Bulls, was injured in a warm-up against the Bulls that week and ended up on crutches, sat on the bench watching the game. In his last Muratti, you've obviously naturally got a player of Miguel Carvalho's stature, who sort of came into the Bulls with Sammy, who's now at Swansea, and he was training at Crawley over the Muratti, so we're missing him. James Sunley, another player that's been brilliant at age group Murattis, had footballing commitments in the UK, and similarly Leandro Vieira, who is with Maritimo and Madeira. So you have an awful lot of players in there, key players as well, game-changing players that naturally have sort of moved on to quote-unquote better things.
I mean, it's an interesting dynamic with the under-21s, isn't it? Because you get such an age range. You know, like the Guernsey side, you've got 16-year-olds playing in there. Like, and that can really change like the makeup of the side. So you're talking about the players that you're missing, and it works both ways. But I think there's another side to it from our perspective, where there's almost a reimagining of Guernsey football. It's like we've seen announcements recently about how the academy is changing, how they're becoming more performance focused over smaller age groups there. We see GFC, they're taking a season where they're taking a bit of a beating, but they've got young players that they're blooding and getting experience in the hope that gives you better progression in the future. And I think that's really interesting to see, and it's quite brave as well, the way they're going.
Yeah, I think from a Guernsey FC standpoint, and obviously you can't really talk about Guernsey FA or Jersey FA without mentioning the Bulls or GFC. The players that are playing and representing the island sides, the majority of which are playing for the two so-called elite clubs on the islands. I think where Guernsey are in a difficult phase now, I think Jersey might get there. It's just GFC are obviously slightly more along the line than the Bulls, but I mean, there is a real risk of going stagnant, and at the moment they seem to be a bit stuck. So I don't think there's anything wrong with sort of reinventing the wheel and trying to change things, because at the end of the day, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Let's take a little bit of a break and hear what Jordan Kelly, the Guernsey manager, had to say on the back of the result. Absolutely delighted, obviously, with the performance and how his side played. And there were a lot of Guernsey players up to their first Muratti win. Just open up. How did it feel?
It's nice to win. It's nice to win the game. Sometimes I don't enjoy football when a game like that is so carnage and chaotic and it's challenging. But again, for some of those players in that team, they never beaten Jersey. So for them, it's the first time. So it's, do you know what I mean? They deserve all the credit they're going to get, because it was a great performance by the lads.
And difficult first half, I guess there are a few flare-ups in there as well.
Yeah, the first half was difficult with the wind. Ollie Harrison, defenders made some great saves, some really, really good saves. Blocks, desire not to concede was outstanding. And they rode the storm, and hey, they got their luck at the end, right? Class. And
you come in 1-0 up. What do you say to the lads? Obviously, Jersey down to 10 as well.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, we're 1-0 up, they go down to 10. It's just a case of just seeing the game. Try and control the game. We're in control. Jersey, to be given credit, they changed their shape and they got an advantage even with 10 men for about 20-30 minutes, and the lads rode the storm. We made a little change, and yeah, ultimately, thank goodness we got our reward.
I mean, obviously, like the beginning of that second half, it's not what you want to see.
Oh no, do you know what I mean? We just had a break, communicate what our plans and intentions were, try and control the game, and then we go and concede. Which, to be fair, Jersey did well for that. We've got to give them credit; they scored a great goal, and it wasn't ideal, but we adapted, overcame, and problem solved, and we got what we wanted. I mean, I guess then you're showing resilience there as well. I mean, your heads can go down. Yeah, no, like I say, with anything I do, I've got a positive. I have a no negative philosophy. Okay, do you know what I mean? There's no point. It's pointless being negative. Positive, adapt. We had the extra player to keep going. Trust our process, trust our philosophy, trust your teammates, and it worked.
And word for the crowd as well.
That's great, wasn't it? Okay, they really got into it come the end, wasn't it? When like the challenges, the battles, goals, blocks, everything. Football is a collective, right? So on a Muratti day, the whole island comes together, and I mean they make a 12 person for the players that are struggling with cramp, fatigue. They're the ones that keep them going. So massive credit to them as well. They all played their part.
Brilliant, thank you.
No problem.
All right, that was Geordie. Great to hear from him. After the game, obviously, it's like you've been there, Steve, when you're reporting on these matches. Like the emotion and what these managers put into it for their team, in the players obviously, but the managers as well, is incredible. It took me a bit longer to be able to speak to anyone from the Jersey side, understandably. But you've dealt with Paul Renton before, and obviously now you've got a lot of time for him there.
Yeah, I mean, Paul is massively passionate. I mean, he's coached so many age group Murattis. He's been involved with the Bulls sort of under 18s, under 23 squad. He sort of said to me in the build up of the Muratti, it's not lost on him. I mean, he feels the same approaching this Muratti as he ever did his first one. So he's hugely passionate, and you need someone like that. And he's very much a person who wears his heart on his sleeve. And that's probably why afterwards he needed some time to sort of process what had happened, especially if he feels slightly hard done by the result. And if there were decisions in there that you're not necessarily going to agree with, I think you need some sort of time to process that, and probably not just that, time to sort of settle your team down. I mean, you've got guys in there, and conversely with Guernsey lads getting their first Muratti win, some of the Jersey lads hadn't experienced a loss before. It's a different feeling, and it probably takes the team a little bit of time to realise what has happened and sort of trying to settle his side down.
So you know, these games can be an important learning curve as well. Like obviously you always want to win. You always want to win a game, but actually, like, you learn a lot in defeat as well. And I know there were some messages that Paul got across to his side after the match. So we'll hear from Paul now.
Look, I thought we were the better team. Even with 10 men, I thought it was a better team. Yeah, we've conceded 2 pure goals. First one, self-inflicted. Second one, I let other people who were here determine their thoughts on that. Look, we were really disappointed. And as I say, I thought we were the better team with 11 and also with 10.
What lessons do you take from today?
We need to score goals. When we had, I think we had two cleared off the line in the first half. Keepers had a good save. We've hit the ball in the second half, so there's 3 or 4. You know, if we take half of them, we win the game.
And what were your expectations coming into today, and how you've performed? How does that measure up?
I thought, look, it's been a tough. It's been a tough 3 or 4 weeks with the players. I mean, we lost a couple of players this week. One through injury and one with another football commitment who would have started today. But I think it just shows you our strength and depth when you look at the performance today. When you look at our performance today, we were still the better team, and on another day we would have, won the game reasonably comfortably.
And you're down to 10 men. What was the message at half time?
Well, you seem reorganised. Whatever the message was, it obviously worked, because we were by far and away the best side in the second half. And I think you would agree with that.
And what was the final message to the players in the changing room just then as well?
Oh, I just said to them, you need to keep 11 players on the pitch for a start off. And if you give the officials a decision to make, in some games those decisions don't go for you. So that's the first lesson they need to take. The second lesson is we've got to take the chances. If you take your chances and win the game. But I've got to say, really pleased with the way they played second half, 10 men. You've caught us at a bit of a tricky moment here. It's really, I've put a lot of time into this, a lot of time and a lot of effort, and to get nothing out of the game when you think when you feel as though you deserve to get something. It's disappointing.
It's a tough one. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. I mean, it's so clear that he felt his side, even with 10 men, were the better team out there. And there's certainly, like, from watching, there was that period, 20 minutes of the second half where Guernsey really, you're coming out at half time, you just want to control the game, you're a man up, and straight away they're on the back foot. It's testament to Jersey that they came back into it and did so well with 10, and they reorganised so well. It was good to see from their side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to credit Paul and the players. They obviously readdressed how they wanted to play coming out of half time. You're 1-0 down on Sarnian soil, and you're down to 10 men. I mean, it's a very tough proposition. And to come back and make it 1-1 there through Rye was a testament to sort of the resolve of the team, really. And obviously, sort of pressure told eventually. Guernsey managed to grab that winning goal. But I mean, you do have to sort of try and take the positives out of that and a glass half full mentality that his side were fully committed. All the 10 players that were out there at the time, they certainly didn't make it look like they were a man light.
Yeah, it was and you can always pick these things up from the crowd almost as well. It was so, like, the Guernsey crowd, when we're up, we're up. When we're down, it was so violent. First, there were leaves blowing down from the stands. It sort of got a bit eerie. That's my poetic side to things. There you go. What analysis that is.
Oh, that's beautiful. Like a Guernsey Peter Drury.
I've been wasted in journalism all this time. Let's move on a little bit here. Let's think about the future of this match, I guess. And I know you've got some thoughts on the officiating side of it.
Yeah, and I don't think, again, this is sitting on the fence here and on both sides. I think it's very difficult, and a lot of people know what to expect when Guernsey come here. You've got a Jersey ref. And I think it sort of changes your entire mentality entering the fixture. Not only are you in front of a partisan crowd that are probably pressuring referees as is, but you've got a Jersey referee in Jersey and conversely a Guernsey referee in Guernsey. I don't think there should be any reason why they don't look into bringing over a ref from England if both the football associations are covering the costs of his visit. I don't think it's really going to break the bank of either side. I think it's probably the way going forward. I think it's very difficult for either ref, whether it's a Guernsey ref in Guernsey or a Jersey ref in Jersey, because sometimes you may be so conscious of appearing biased that it may go the other way. I mean, you may start giving decisions for Guernsey as a Jersey ref that maybe you wouldn't normally give because you don't want to appear like you're being biased. I think it's just very hard to remain neutral.
I mean, it depends how. I mean, both FAs, like, you've got to see this as an important game in the season, like, especially for the under-21s, because how often do they get to play at that level as island sides representing your island? So, I think I tend to agree. You've just got to give the fixture the kudos that it deserves, and it deserves good officiating, or the best officiating that it can get, and that stands for any inter-island sport,
Yeah, I completely agree. There will be players in various different sports that play on bigger stages than the Muratti is based on rankings and stuff like that. You've seen it in cricket recently. Obviously, the Jersey cricketers have been very successful, relatively speaking, on the world stage. But you'll hear Neil McRae, the Jersey coach, always talk about the Interinsular. Everyone wants to play in it, regardless of the fact they've just played on the world stage in Africa. They all want to play Interinsulars. For Jersey-born and Guernsey-born people, it's hard to pick out fixtures more important to them on a personal level. And you've got really difficult decisions to make. I mean, conversely now, Barry, who was the unfortunate guy sent off for Jersey, in the under-21s Muratti now is one of them younger players and misses out on the under-18s Muratti, his last opportunity to play for the under-18s. And when you think of a regular league fixture, you may just miss a regular game through that. He now misses the chance to play against Guernsey again, which I just think the punishment just doesn't match the crime on that front. And I think it's incredibly important, like you said, Mano, that these fixtures should be taken for what they are. And for a lot of people, they are the most important fixture that they'll play in the calendar year.
I was going to finish up by maybe just having a bit of a look ahead. I think I've got I did have the fixture list for the rest of the Murattis going forward, and I've just lost it. So there we are. Right, maybe I'll edit that in later, just so that we can see where we're going in the future. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a bit strange having a Muratti in November in general. Yeah. I think when you look at it, I always typically thought Muratti's in spring, but for people that are hungry to see that, I mean, breaking them up can't necessarily be a bad thing. So, I mean, it also just gives players in the early season sort of something going forward to look forward to, if they do plan on keeping it in November going forward.
I think it worked. I think it worked in terms of like the stand was full at Foots Lane, you know. I think in terms of like a spectacle and a product that people wanted to go and see, it was brilliant. Like
naturally, when you have a game in November, the weather behaved, and it did at Foots Lane, obviously, in torrential rain. So obviously, it's an ideal time of year to have a final in general.
I think maybe we should move all the football to the worst weather conditions.
Yeah, I think that might suit Guernsey actually. So I mean, that might be something that you wanna suggest and sort of take as much skill element out of the equation as you can.
We'll bring them, and they can all be played over here as well.
Guernsey refs,
Guernsey balls. Everything.
Probably not allow any jersey support in there, I'd imagine.
Maybe we could like combine it with the basketball as well, just to get that real sort of guaranteed winning feeling.
I mean, I'm actually really glad because we planned to do this podcast last week, and obviously, as you said, netball wasn't looking overly pretty for you, and the prospects of the football wasn't either. So the fact I've caught you in a little bit of a good mood is probably best for the dynamic of the podcast. So in long story there, I feel like it's probably worked better for you, just feeling a little more upbeat after the footballing victory over the weekend.
I mean, honestly, and you know that I'm a happy-go-lucky chap all the time. You've dealt with me before, especially after these sporting occasions. I'm always, always up and about it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Glass half full, Mano.
All right, it's been great to chat, mate. We'll be doing this again moving forward as we have more Guernsey victories and more inter-island fixtures. I'm not quite so sure what's going to happen if it goes the other way. Whether I'll call you up or not is it's my call, really, isn't it? So
yeah, well, I mean, I can always arrange our own podcast to celebrate Jersey victory. I mean, there's been enough of them over the calendar year, to be fair.
You think you get a bit tired?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, when it becomes mainstream and expected, I mean, it is quite difficult to sort of continually celebrate success. So it is quite nice when Guernsey get their sort of 5 minutes of fame.
All right, I'm off to go and have a look at the Ambassador Bowl a bit closer. I'll send you a picture and we'll catch up again soon, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is the first time you've had it since 2019, so enjoy it.
That was the cool down. Thanks again for listening. Please like and subscribe for more. You can find all our sports news on gsy.bailiwickexpress.com and on all our social channels. Sign up to our daily email to keep up to date on all the work the Express team does.